How did we meet?
I think it was through Brett Mayo, um, or Brent Mayo.
Was
Sorry,
it?
Brent Mayo. Yeah, because I think Brent what had played with Nate on some stuff,
Yep.
and yeah, I had done at that point. I had done two albums. I did one. My first one I did with a friend who was the lead for Building 429, which is like a Christian rock band. And in
Yeah.
Nashville, it was like in his basement studio that he had just like kind of put together, and I had $600 and I slept on his floor, and that was how that first one came out, and then
Yeah.
so and it's about it sounds about like that. He's like, I don't know, man, I'm just gonna hit record, we can figure something out, throw some plugins, call it a day. um
That's how it goes.
yeah, and then the second one was Windshield, which was Kevin Rowe produced for me, which was a little EP. And then I was trying to I wanted to and that was also at his like apartment, and that was interesting because we had some, our ISO booth was like, quilts that my dog had slept on. So it was like my dog's ass was like right in my face for where our mic was, like, and so, and a
Yeah.
lot of love with it, a lot of love with that one. But 'cause I wanted to step it up a notch from my dog's smell. And so I was like,
Right.
and so we were talking about Brent was playing a little bit of bass with me on the road, and or I say on the road, it was kind of on the road around Atlanta, and I was talking about trying to get a little bit of a different recording situation going on, and he knew you, and so I think he set up the meeting. I remember we met at Zach, and really it was interesting because I didn't know anything about this, right? I didn't know anything about like a studio, like realistically, I didn't know anything about people who are self-proclaimed producers. I didn't know people who are self-proclaimed uh, audio engineers. I knew nothing about it. I knew how to strum on a guitar and sing songs,
Right.
and that was the extent of it, And
Okay.
so I didn't really know what I was in for. And if I remember, we were sitting in the B room. B room, is it the B room over there? What room do we? What
Yeah, the
that
one that we worked out. Yeah, the room
Yeah,
at Zach. Yeah.
yeah. And we were just on the couch, and you're like, just play some stuff, which was weird. But I didn't know that's how. I didn't know sometimes that's how
Yeah.
how it worked. And,
That's how it goes. Yeah.
yeah. And I think it was more of like the joy of both sides of meeting that is that I have a choice and you have a choice, and you can obviously say no and I can obviously say no, and should be no feelings hurt when we walk out the door if it's not something that would work, right? And even
Yeah.
unless you unless you desperately need money and I desperately need an album,
Right.
which probably was both
Yeah.
at the time. Who knows, dude?
It's
Uh,
all they got always. There may be elements of that for everybody at some
it's
point.
true,
Yes.
it's true. But no, yeah, I think it was like it was kind of like a general acceptance where, and I feel like Brent was there.
It's weird that you bring that up because once you brought up Brent and then you were saying we met at Zach, I remember that now. I remember being in that room and I believe Brent was there because I think it does usually help to have that go between. So if you have that mutual friend, and obviously I'd worked with Nate. I don't
Yeah,
know if Brent ever played too much on Nate's stuff per se, but he
I don't
played
think
on a
he
few.
did. I think for him it was more of like a personality thing. He knew that it was like that we would hit it off personality wise, and I think that's one of the key things that I just didn't know anything about anyway. It's just like it's really important that there's some sort of like mesh or braid in personality where um, you're mutually making a project
Synergy.
together. Yeah,
Everyone I've spoken to, and I think everyone I will speak to after this conversation, um, it is there is that element. If you have that synergy, that's like just as important as, if not more so, I think, than the creative energy. Because the creative energy you can kind of figure out, but if you mesh as a person, and me being a people person, I like how people it's a people person. Um, that it works out for me, and I think that's why it's made my career so much easier. I think because I don't really clash with too many people, and if I do, there's a reason for it. It's never just I'm having a bad day or whatever. There may be. I've had a few clients that I did get mad at, But it was typically a misunderstanding. But most of the time, I mean, like you said, you know, getting to meet people like any artist I've ever met, if I knew I was going to work with them on any kind of long term basis, I always have that meeting with them. I want to hang out with them. I want to see their mannerisms. I want to see, you know, their just. I want to know everything about them. Just I want to befriend them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
At
think
first,
that's a key thing. One of the things with my personality is that I'm not competitive. It's just not my nature. Another thing too is that I don't really hold on to my stuff, and I'm like, this is it. This is how it needs to be. And I think me being like, Simon, this is the house that I built. Come in, paint the walls, move the furniture around, do whatever you want to do to make it sellable. I think like come in and like this is my house, but it's not my house. Like it's our house at some point if we're all living in it. And so I think that that's part of the personality too, is that, especially when you have, producers and engineers and musicians that are playing on it, people that are all kind of contributing to this project, and having that mentality of being like, this is exactly how I want it as an artist, sometimes doesn't work. Sometimes it's better to say, this is what I have, take it and to help me mold it into something better. And I think that that's like a key to like a lasting relationship with anybody that's in the recording process, because I know musicians
yeah.
that are like, I have it in my head, this is how it needs to be, and then the reality is like it can be that way, or like accepting changes is
That
sometimes a
outside
better way to look
input,
at.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's funny you bring that up too, because that was actually one of the things that not many things get under my skin in the studio, but that does. And I always have said that if I go in with an artist and if they're just telling me what to do with their song, and then I go, well, now I'm a button pusher,
yeah,
meaning I don't get any creative input in this. So what about, I don't hear that for this. And I went, like, this is why you came to me. Because you came in with that first group of songs. And I think once we decided to work together, I do remember, I mean, and I'm sure with the songs that you write and just our personality, I'm sure I knew pretty much right away that we should work together because your songs are very cool, and I think you, much like me, have a very eclectic musical palette. So we're not like, So I don't like someone saying, "Well, you're a singer songwriter." It's like you are, but really, to me, I think you're a songwriter, but I wouldn't pit you in that group because some things are jazzy, some things are funky, some things are kind of alternative. You know what I mean? Like there's all these different elements to it that you can't really put in a box. So
yeah,
I'm just not. I'm not a fan of categories anymore. But that is one thing that attracted me to working with you in general is that I remember you coming in with songs and they were kind of all over the board
yeah,
in a good way, where I was like, oh, this will be fun. That's kind of what I look at it as. If I'm like already into it and I'm hearing like, oh, I can hear this kind of drum or this kind of whatever on this song, those kind of things.
yep,
You were the first artist that I worked with that I thought was a very, or quite successful, you did a GoFundMe, or you did a crowdfunded
yeah.
album,
I did.
basically, right?
Yeah, that To the Left album was done basically off my website. Like it was just a um, so sorry, dude. Uh, yeah, so it
Don't
was it was
apologize. It's awesome.
it was
Yeah.
like it was like an organic push of like, I think back then it was mainly just Facebook was what I used, plus an email list from when I was gigging out, and I was just really pushing hard because I was just like, I didn't want to do like any of the GoFundMe stuff because I was like, I don't want to. Back then, it was or Kickstarter. Back then, it was like I didn't want to give them a percentage of it because my fans didn't want to give them a percentage of it. And so
Right,
it was
right,
it, it
right.
was kind of like there were certain things that were there. So I was just like, PayPal, cat any type. And I did a couple of shows. I organized Left Fest, which was that.
Oh,
It was
that's
a fest.
right.
Yeah, it was like I think it was like a 13 or 14 band festival in a field that we organized. We had like a all sorts of stuff. We had had it was just on two low boys that we put together, and we had a guy that donated like a whole hog for barbecue and. A couple of kegs from a brewery that had endorsed me, that they donated some stuff, and so like it was like this really kind of grassroots fundraising to be able to do it, um, which was fun, because for me it was just like um, if if you knew anything about me as a musician, it was that like I was 100% a believer in fans. Like it was 100%, like you know
Mm-hmm.
it was a tough time, still is a tough time for any musicians back then, trying to find money. People were like, oh, I need a label or I need a booking agent, which it's helpful depending on what you want to do.
Yeah,
And for me, I was just like, it was never really about the money. I wasn't trying to do like national tours. I was just trying to put out decent music that people wanted me to put out. And so I knew that because people wanted me to put it out, that they would also be willing to contribute to help. Um,
yeah,
and and so yeah, it was good. It was good. I did a bunch of stuff, and took a lot of inventiveness, because there you could read 1,000 things online or in a book of how to do it, but there's never like everybody's unique, and you got to figure out your fan base. And
yeah,
um, yeah, so yeah, it was like a lot of people on social media and stuff will only put up the positive stuff, but I was just so pumped about what the hell was going on that was all positive for me. It was just like I was just pumped that anybody wanted to
yeah,
throw
yeah,
cash in the ring, to be able to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna help this guy make some music, um, and reap the rewards from it. So yeah, it was a cool thing. Left Fest turned out great. It was so I had people talking about it for years afterwards, asking when it was coming around again. And I was like, well, there's only one To the Left album, so I can't do it again.
yeah.
Yeah. Plus, I got bit by a spider that night, and it was just I had to go to the emergency. It was just like,
Oh shit, yeah, I remember that.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Well, a testament to, the fans, um, that donated. That to me was also a very cool element to that album, because like you said, the faith in the people, and people really do appreciate and support good music and good art. So I think there was a lot of good energy behind that, and even watching, I remember you had that meter, I think, on your website
yeah,
that would go up, and it was all you really did it so well because it was a thing where people got to watch and they wanted to contribute to see you get closer and closer to that goal. The cool thing about, and obviously, once again, thanks to the fans, what, many fans may not realize, especially for independent artists, is that budgets actually allow us to make, I don't want to say better records, but it does give us access to more things. And that being said, because you had a budget, we were able to record in a nice place. We were able to hire, Sam Thomas, a Grammy winning engineer,
yeah.
um, and have him in there with us. That was very cool. And I remember we set up shop in there. I don't know, were we there a week?
I
Didn't
think so.
we?
It was Sam Thomas, and also Sean Singh was there. Like,
Yep.
he was just kind of getting his. I think he was just kind of getting his feet wet on stuff, and he had
He was. Yep. Shout out to
yeah.
Sean and Lorenzo, my
Lorenzo, did
my
he?
intern.
I felt like Lorenzo popped in on Built Broken Mended. I feel like he was there for that. Was he there? I feel like that was his jam. Was he?
He might have been there as well, but I
Was he on
think he
To the
was
Left?
there for
Okay.
yeah, because I remember doing the song To the Left and working on that, and he was at my house with me
Oh, gotcha.
because
Okay.
we were doing some editing, and I was actually asking his opinion on some things because that song is quite different and a standout on
Man,
there. Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing too. You talked about how like all the songs on these things are really eclectic, and I think that was, um, like I said, because I was never really trying to like world tour or like hyper focus on anything. I was like what genre? It's like what genre do I need? Like I like I just
right.
write
Yeah,
something I like,
let's
Um,
just do all of them.
yeah, yeah. But that's I think that's why things like To the Left, even I mean even Built Broken Mended, like they're yeah, I like them. I mean, what I didn't know at the time, but kind of somebody told me, I think it was after To the Left, it was a fan that was talking about, they're like, yeah, it's all over the place, it's they're like the sound is all over the place,
Is
but they said what was really flattering is they said that each song is distinctly Neil Cribs, which was like
yes,
really a huge relief to hear, because no one had really kind of put it like that. Because I was just like, what am I doing? I'm doing like opera at rap and polka. Like what, is it, is there like, but to hear that is like, it's like, good. Okay, good. I do have a sound, that I don't know what it is, but if as long as everybody else does, that's fine with me.
yeah, you definitely do, and that's a distinct marker. But I think being versatile is a style, and it's like you can do all. I mean, I think there are a lot of great artists in just music history in general that you never know what they're gonna come with. You know what I mean? And even think of people like even Peter Gabriel or someone like that, or even shit, who else? I mean, there's just I don't know, just not being able to be put in a box.
Yeah.
Once again, I think is
I
a
mean, Queen
beautiful
Queen
thing.
is pretty eclectic too. Queen is kind
Yeah,
of all over the place when it
Queen.
comes to like, um, not that
But
I'm
even
like either. I'm not like either one of those artists,
well,
those
but
groups,
you know what
but
I mean. Even
yeah,
but even like David Bowie. I'm just
yeah.
thinking of like people who were very well known for like, yo, what the hell are they doing now? Like, what is this?
That
You know
playing
what
in
I
the
mean?
studio, just playing in the studio.
It's like let's just make music, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I was listening to the left, well, a couple of things come to mind. But I want to talk about a couple of songs in particular. I don't. I would say picking favorite songs like picking a favorite child. You just don't tell anyone. You know what your favorites are, but keep it a secret.
Well, now I'm
But
curious.
no, I really, I think there were when I produce albums, there are probably some, or maybe if I am drawn to them because maybe I feel like I nailed it on my end, or I'm
Yeah.
like, this whatever. But I do want to talk about first is if you remember the Fireball thing, when you were recording and you said, when I'm recording the vocals, I might want to take a little shot of something, burn out the gunk. And you said, do you remember this?
I don't. I remember. I remember Fireball like burns my. I mean, it's sugar. It's sugar. It's like a sugar shot.
I
But
know, so it's probably not the best, but you said you said we sent Sean out for a run, so he had to get some other things. We said get a bottle of Fireball. So he goes, and I love Sean so much, and he comes back and he goes, okay, so they didn't have a big bottle, but they had a shitload of little bottles. And remember, he brought like 20 little tiny.
like the little airplane ball.
Yeah, he bought like a shitload of those, and then like by the end of the day, everybody had had some shots. Like
Oh,
Sam
dude.
was drinking them, you were drinking them. I'm sure Sean did. Um, I just remember how funny that was
Oh
because we
man.
just laughed at him because he really did the best he could. Where he was like, "Oh, you didn't have the big one,"
God,
so I got
Sean,
these little
he
ones.
must have gone through so much gas. I remember he went on a lot of runs for those sessions.
He really did. He just posted. He did some engineering for Machine Gun Kelly. He's
Yeah, I
been
saw
working with
that. I
MGK.
saw that. Man, I'm
Yeah,
proud of
he's
him, dude.
out in
He's a
LA.
good dude.
He's
Sean's a
the
good dude.
best. Shout out to Sean. So I remember we spent that whole week in the studio, and I think if I am correct, I think when you were coming, as we were going through songs, because that EP is 5 songs, I think.
I think so.
I was I could be wrong, but I do believe I was making the drum grooves in the studio, like, every day. I remember Sam would lay those in to the session and loop it, and then you
Yeah.
would play to that, and then we'd build off of that, and then I'd go,
Yeah.
reconfigure it later, which was
Yeah,
very
yeah,
cool.
exactly. We didn't have a drummer. We didn't have a drummer for that one. That was all you.
Not that one, no.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly how it went. Yeah, and it was long session times, but man, none of it felt long. You know,
No.
I think between me, you, and Sam, we were all so damn excited to be making it. I think that was part of like that's a testimonial to like a the songs, I think, but like more like b the camaraderie of what happens with that trifecta. You know, I think it was just a lot of fun. Um, and
But I think it was this combination of, well, I don't even think I know. It's this combination when you have, great talent and great songwriting, that you bring to the table. Sam's got this technical know-how and knows how to work with producers,
mhm.
and so he didn't have to think about his job. You didn't have to think about yours, and I was doing my thing and really, working with the two of you and, being creative and getting those takes. And I remember several times, um, I remember that it struck me that, um, or I keep getting reminded that this was early in my friendship with Steve Lillywhite, because I remember every time we do something cool, I would take a screen, like a little video of it, and send it to him. Like you were stacking vocals
Yeah,
on.
it was
Remember?
glass and frame. I think it was.
Yes, I
Uh,
believe so.
I'm pretty sure
Was
it's
it?
glass and frame. I think it was the she's a little bit crazy.
Yes, yes, it was.
I feel like it
Yeah,
was that. I remember this because that stuck with me.
and and Steve was like, he said something really cool, like it sounded like Queen or something.
Yeah, he said it
He
sounds like
said something.
Mercury. Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember that. I
yeah,
remember that stuck with me because it was like you just sent him like just the dry vocals, like dry
yeah,
vocals,
yeah, yeah.
like dry. You
Straight
know,
up
like
at the session.
like
By the way,
Sahara.
by the yeah, well, another thing I have to give you props on, because what I loved about these records, and I want to talk a little bit more about that and then move to the other one. But the other thing was you made a very strong point that we were not going to use pitch correction. And I loved that so much because I was so, even now, I correct so much, which is just
Yeah,
kind of expected now. But I just loved the rawness. But first of all, you can sing, so that helps. But
thanks.
we didn't need to go in and like, oh, we got to tweak this little, quarter of a cent or what. Like all these things, it just felt really good and organic. And um, what was it? I think so. Once again, I'm not picking favorites because I like them all, but I know High Road was really badass because first of all, it's a cool song, it's a chill song. But Daniel Groover
Oh,
coming
dude.
in and laying down the leads, I was like, holy shit! Like now we're in a whole other stratosphere
Yeah, it
because
was
he
awesome.
crushed that thing.
And that was my first. I mean, yeah, that was my first meeting with Groover too. You know,
Okay.
and yeah, he was good. And it was just what I liked about Groover's session with that song. Like that song's simple, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's virtually three chords. You know, throw in a fourth if you feel like it. And back then, it was like I didn't write choruses. You know, so like there was there was no like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take a second and like separate off of this, and we're just gonna keep moving. Like it was just like plow through the song. There's
Plow
no
through it.
break, and you get to the end. But he never said anything about that, which was fine with me. B, I didn't know how to write choruses, which I guess was fine with me because I
Never
was, you know,
bothers me.
yeah. But what I love about Groover doing that is like I think it was in G minor, I think, but he was just like he was doing take after take after take on that, and it wasn't because he necessarily needed to. It was more because he just wanted to just keep. playing with it and like fleshing it out, and
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, it's fine, like yeah,
Yeah.
do you, and yeah, he was really chill, he was super, he's groover, like he's super quiet and just kind of sits back there and just shreds shit, and then steps out and you know eat some popcorn, like as if like nothing just
Yeah.
happened back there,
Right. That's that's what's so great about Groover is that he's so unassuming that you could be hanging out with him. He's the most chill person, and then you plug him in, hand him a guitar, and it's like, holy, like,
Yeah,
sheesh, he
yeah,
lights it up, and man, and I just remember with guys like him, at least with guitar solos, especially. It like you said, is he's never taking takes. Well, I mean, he's a perfectionist, so he will take if he feels like he made a mistake. But I just remember with guys like him, and I still deal with guys, or any musician like him. I just say let it just play it, and then we'll get multiple takes, and I'll comp unless you just nail one that we're like, oh my god, that was you know, the unicorn take.
yeah,
But it was really cool. And the other thing, doing production, after the fact, what was cool about that is if you remember during that part, I think you and Daniel kind of played off of each other, like you vocally. Remember you did those little scats in the
yeah,
solo,
yeah.
and well, actually, that comes back in the second record, which we'll talk about in a minute. But that was one of my favorite bits. But one thing I want to bring up before we, jump to the second record we did was to the left was really fun to track, and I think you can always tell when you get the engineer geeked about how we're gonna track it. And what
Yeah,
was crazy was, and I've never done this, but the way you were mic'd up for everybody listening or watching. You were mic'd up in the booth, but we also had a splitter, and you were going into the control room, and he had that little tiny
orange. Yeah,
orange amp. Yeah, this
yeah,
little like pocket size amp running your vocal, but then he threw a blanket over it, and we just kind of kept the mic in because it was in the control room with us.
yeah. Because I also think it was battery powered. I mean, so when I was doing that song live, I was doing it with a bullhorn,
Right.
and this is before everybody and their mother was doing shit with bullhorns. Not like I'm the OG, but like like it wasn't
Right.
a thing. Like I just
It
happened to have
wasn't.
I had a pile bullhorn. I have no idea why. Um, cheer, I don't know, yell at people, I don't know, but I had one,
Yeah.
so I used it on stage. I really think we only did that. We didn't do that song a ton on stage, but like I was like, how do I was like, this is what it's a more of a distortion push. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that orange amp was battery powered. I'm pretty sure we probably blew through some C or D batteries in doing that. It was awesome. I think
Yeah.
Sam had just gotten that one. I feel like, but yeah, yeah, that was a good, that's a good song. I remember you. Gosh, I could be making this up, so you might need to edit this right here. Okay. I remember you saying it, just in case. Uh, saying
Okay.
something like you were like it was like an off day in the studio, and in Stonehenge, you relayed you're like, yeah, there was a Rihanna listening party down there going on for some. Do you remember this? I don't know if
It
you remember
sounds
this.
familiar. Go ahead, please.
You're like, there's a Rihanna listening party going on in Stonehenge for some shit, I guess, like for what, something. And you knew somebody that was in there that was part of it, and you just like, I can't remember who the hell it was, but you dropped it in there amongst like a bunch of producers, just like the initial like beat part, because it had like Sam beatboxing on it, and it had that initial like beat drop on it, and I mean there was a lot going on there. And
Oh yeah.
I remember, I can't remember who the hell was in there, but I remember you saying like you're like, yeah, I think somebody was like, who the hell, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, yeah, that I probably did. Well, that was the thing with that song is, we covered so many styles on that one project alone, and just coming down to the left. It was just really on purpose alarming. I think I used
Yeah.
the horn from my wheelchair was in there. There's this dun 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 dun,
Yeah,
which
and there
I
was also like a
tuned to
big
the
that
song.
big siren you dropped in. It's like that. It's like, man, there was like a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
cool shit going on there.
and
It was all
and
over the
I
place.
believe Pat played bass on that, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I think we ran him through that same amp. Because I believe we double amped him because we did a DI and that distorted bass. So we kind of matched your vocal with the bass. One thing, by the way, tr- uh, note to the wise out there, or something I had to be very mindful of when I was doing my vocal comps. Sam had to remind me of this too. I had to remember to keep, because we did multiple takes, I had to keep the same vocal up with the same send to the amp. Because
Oh
if I'm
yeah,
like, oh, that was take two from the DI, but take three from the amp, they all had to be
dude.
locked together. Yeah, that thing was a technical, I had to keep very tight track of that.
So, on the spirit of Pat,
Yes.
I remember Old Time Story. So, Old Time Story was one of my first songs that I wrote that really made me money. Like, it was one of the first ones that I really like sold stuff because of.
Yeah.
And magically, like my second, my biggest money maker was on the other album, on the Bill Broken Mended. But I remember Pat, because it's like this kind of like swing, it's like this like driving kind of like swing song. I remember Pat's also a perfectionist when it comes to like dropping stuff
I
down. So
remember this. Yeah,
God,
yeah,
dude, he got so frustrated because it's just like this like jazzy like bass run the whole time, and him just
yeah,
like hitting like one sour and be like shit, and like having to like start from the top again. And I
yeah,
mean, but he was making it harder than I ever imagined. But I didn't want to stop him because I wanted it to be that hard. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like I wanted it to
yeah.
be that difficult. I'm like, don't let me get in the way of your artistic creativity. Like, you know.
Hmm. That's the thing. That's the thing about Pat. Is even one thing you gotta love about him is he is a perfectionist with that, and I admire that. And while there is no true perfection, but like perfection to that song, and he was. I remember him getting a workout that day, on that. Now that
He
you bring it
did.
up, I know he was getting frustrated, but what I loved is that he plows through it. He's still like, go again,
Yeah.
or punch there, punch here. We got this. We'll do this. And man, he was just nailing. Because yeah, that every time I hear that song, you almost envision one of the like busiest upright bass players you can imagine is almost where it belongs,
Yeah.
and there he was with his bass just like he walked all over the neck. Like he was everywhere. It was
Dude, it was
awesome.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah. It was a
It
good run.
was. When did the cupcake thing happen? Was that the first album or the second? Because you're then, I think, fiance, or were you all married then?
We got married. No, we got married 2012 October.
Oh, so you got married later that year. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. So it must have been.
cool. So your wife to be
Yeah.
made some cupcakes for us at
That's
the
right.
studio. And I just remember you didn't tell us anything really, and she showed up while we were in session. And I just remember the interns coming back going, you guys got some cupcakes out there, and they're all laughing. And I'm like, why is this so funny? Like, what is funny? And
Dude.
then Jim Z is down there laughing, and I'm like, what is this? And then I get over there and go, oh, okay. Was it? How did we get cupcakes with like genitals and breasts?
I I don't remember.
It doesn't matter.
I think yeah. But I mean, is there? Yeah. Does it matter? You know,
It doesn't. I
as
thought it
long as
was.
this, if it's sweet, we eat. You know what I mean? That's how it
That's
be.
my motto.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it was pretty amazing though, because I was like, I think your wife to be is the coolest woman I've ever known. Man, That's beautiful.
Oh
No,
man.
that was fun though. Not everybody gets cupcakes with phallic, depictions on them. So
Yeah, if it was just like regular cupcakes, you'd be like, oh, it wouldn't be a memory.
we reconvened again. When was that? When did we? Was it the next year or 2014?
It came out in 2014. I feel like it was like fall of 2014. I remember I had some stuff written. I was really kind of influenced by like I'd always been like influenced by Great Depression, Dust Bowl era,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember wanting to like kind of focus on that and the idea of swing and um, I don't know, like thematically it was like you know people getting through probably the worst thing they could imagine in a
Yeah.
way, and so I'd been writing some songs, and I remember I wrote so Groover magically, Groover and I, because we became friends with that, and he played some gigs, started playing gigs with me a little bit off and on,
Yeah.
depending on what our schedules were like, and we try our hand at songwriting. We try to do. I've still got it somewhere around here. We try to do some like some gypsy jazz style stuff, and together, and then that pushed out Capital T in a way, like at least influenced it as we were trying to start writing. I kind of took home and kind of kept going with a little bit, and um, Muskrat Swing came out and all this other stuff, and so I started playing those out live, and um, I remember thinking I just wanted something different. And I think initially I hit up Sam, um, and we tried messing around with just some stuff because Sam was just like swing by and record. Like it's not necessarily like pushing out an album. It's just like swing by and record something. And so we started working on some stuff. So I think one of the things we did was Riverbed. Started doing initial stuff with Riverbed. And I think when I hit the point where I was like, you know what, like I think we need to like really kind of like pull back into the studio and like actually record some of this stuff. We hit you up, and I think I want to say like Riverbed might have been one of the first ones we did because we had all these tracks kind of recorded. It was things like dropping wrenches, and we recorded some stuff beating on railroad ties or railroad rails, I guess, and all this stuff. And we kind of took
And
that.
some of that, remember,
Yeah,
I was gonna say some of that. Remember, you and Tony
we did.
went
Yeah,
out on the tracks
it was me,
with a
Sam, and
field
Tony.
work. We got extra
Yeah,
stuff. Oh, that's right. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. You
yeah.
guys
We
were
all we
actually
were like,
banging on the rails.
yeah, we had like a Zoom recorder, and I remember I think Sam's was the dropping the bag of wrenches. We had this like vinyl
Yep.
bag of wrenches that we just dropped, which it makes a gorgeous sound on that
Yeah, it's
track.
awesome.
And I was like, I kind of want a chain gang, but it was just it turned out it was that was I think one of the cooler parts about recording that album was Sam really stretched out too. We got some of those old mics back in the closets of Zach, some of his old ribbon mics.
Yeah.
And then Sam tried that
Well,
technique. I can't think of what the hell that
yeah.
with the
Is it like Blumline?
yeah,
Something
yeah.
like, is it? How the hell did I come up with that?
Hey
Sometimes I
man,
forget. I think it's a
it's
Blumline.
like
I hope that's not like a
it's like dick
medical
cupcakes.
condition.
It just sticks with you. No, you're
Dick, I was like, I said
uh,
Blumline. Somebody's like, my grandfather had that. That's not funny. I got called through.
like,
But
well,
yeah,
apparently there's a technique.
it's almost like it's the one mic on top of the other, turned 90 degrees to each other. I
Yeah.
think with the polarity switched a certain way. And
Yes.
yeah, I think many things about that project is that we did stretch, and the cool thing about that is I think we really nailed something with that record on all fronts because we brought in who was our drummer on that?
So Dave Anthony was on the drums.
Dave Anthony. Yeah,
Trey Lander on bass. Kevin Rowe, who did my second
Kevin
album, was a
Rowe.
good friend, was on the keys for stuff like Muskrat Swing. He killed it. That little slightly out of tune piano
Oof.
and in Stonehenge. That's awesome. So
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Like all the way down on this record, I think we just nailed it because we got that live feel that we wanted. Like, I mean, I think the first record was great and served its purpose, but I think we all
yeah,
kind of grew and matured on the second one. And I think it helped that you had this theme going, and I think we really kept with that and kept it very organic. I don't think there were many, you know, uh, fabricated elements, if any. There were very minimal, if any.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there were any. I
I
don't
don't
know.
even. I mean, kind of the percussion stuff on Riverbed was because that was the we had the foot
Well,
stomps and
so
things.
we made the foot stomps. The low end beat was Sam slapping on a kick drum case. I remember that, like he hit it.
That's
And it was like
true.
a kick drum case, and
Oh,
I
that's
know
right.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so I feel like I'm trying to think if there was anything that wasn't organic.
I mean, if there was, I wouldn't tell you. There might have been like a organ overdub or something. I guess. I guess what I meant by the percussion thing is obviously it was sequenced in Pro Tools, but it was
Yeah.
but
Oh
everything
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah, for
really
sure.
everything was was more it was more human. It was more flawed. But what's crazy about that is, and what I mean flawed in a good way.
Yeah,
It was very human, and I like those elements in songs. And but damn, we had some good musicians. And from Capital T was fucking jamming all
yeah,
the way down, and then that was the one where Daniel was, killing it again. But I liked that you guys were playing off of each other. And damn, Dave on the drums, he played so many styles
dude, he's
for
so
us
good.
again because he was playing that. Then he had Better Weather, it's Baby Making Jam, you know.
Yeah, man,
So we had all these.
let me tell you, man, that album for me. So Carolina on it has sold more everything than anything I've ever done. I mean, like Carolina is like a go to. I mean, there are guys that I go camping with here that when I have this little junior guitar that I have everybody sign whenever we go camping. There are guys that request it and they cry when I play it because they're native born Carolinians and they're just like it hits their
Ugh,
soul. And like and Better Weather, I've have so many fans and friends that have used that for their first dance at their wedding, which is one of the reasons that I wrote it, and it's just like to know that they can listen to that. um Even though Colin, do you remember going to get it mastered by Colin, that thing mastering?
yes.
And Dave had that sizzle on the rod, and he's like, "Oh man, I'll put the sizzle on the rod." I was like, "What is that?" He's like, "Oh, just put some shit on here." I was like, "Okay, cool." So he drops that little sizzle ball bearing thing on it. And we sit down with Colin Leonard, and we were sitting in his like pretty like lit up room, with like hands on mastering and all this shit. And he gets there, and he gets past the first song, which is capital T, and gets on to Better Weather, and you see him just kind of like twinge a little bit. And we're both like sitting in the room. He
Yeah.
goes, he goes, "Me, you guys hear that?" And we're like, we're like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
what?"
he kept
He goes,
doing that. Yeah.
he's like, "It's like you hear that?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "You want that there?" I said, "Yeah, shit, why not?" And he goes, "Okay," and just like master it. I sure his
Yeah.
reaction was like perfect because like a guy whose like ears are like finely tuned to frequencies. If it twinges you a little bit, maybe that's what you need. Maybe it'll switch it up a
Yeah.
little bit. You know?
But I think it was all those elements, because like I said, I listened to it the other day.
I'm gonna
Actually, yes,
pop that for you.
yeah, celebratory. Um, I listened to it
Oh,
to refresh, really to refresh my thoughts about the record, and there were so many cool things about that record, and you know, I like it makes me think of the term producer now, and people say you know producers or slash beat maker or whatever. But I think one of
yeah,
my most proud moments is producing a song like Muskrat Swing, because when I play that for people, they're like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! You produced this?" I'm like, "Yeah." because they don't get, like, I didn't make the beat. I'm here for, like, putting it all together, making sure we get the good takes, and,
Yeah.
like, that it all vibes and gels together. And that song, and, um, it was his name Dash Hill,
Yeah, Dash Hill.
the
Yeah,
guy
Dash
that,
man. Yeah.
man, Dash Hill killed the trumpets on that thing. And I remember that was one of the last things we did, if you
Yeah.
remember, because we didn't get him, and we had me and
We
Sam
did
and
it.
I went to another studio,
Yes.
like in Little Five Points,
Yeah.
over by
Yeah.
Little
Yeah.
Five.
I remember it was Sam had just kind of settled into that studio. I remember it. It was a good little spot.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Dash came in and just crushed those trumpet parts, and I was like, "Good God!" Like it really took you somewhere. Like that whole record took you. It's weird because it was almost as all over the place in a way as the first record, but it was more cohesive. I think it was
Yeah.
almost like if we made To the Left back in that era. That's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
It was
Dude, I
like
mean,
we're yeah.
collectively it was fantastic. I mean, like Kevin had good keys.
Oh man,
And, you know,
so good.
D was an amazing person to work with. She was just really cool. Um,
Oh
coming,
yeah, D Woods on that guest vocal
yeah,
crushed it.
she was
Voice
really
was
sweet.
perfect.
Yeah, I remember. So like that verse, I'd use Cap Calloway's Jive Dictionary to like write out that verse. And I remember handing it to her, and I I played it for her, and I was like, "This is how the verse goes." And it was so fast. I remember her saying, "You're gonna write this down, right? I'm gonna have words for this."
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, I got
Yeah.
you." But no, yeah, really, really sweet. In fact, as weird as it sounds, like my dad, like he loves it. He loves that's his favorite song of mine that I've done, and it's really because of like Dee's verse on it. He really loves her voice. He loves what she did with it, and this is my dad, who's like pure symphonic music dude, like pure
Okay.
classical
Yeah.
dude. That's his jam. But he was like, "I like it. Sounds great."
I'm
So,
like, whoa, thank you. Yeah.
yeah,
It's like the highest compliment.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. So yeah, like he yeah, yeah, it's that was, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, Wind Rider was fantastic. Your boy on banjo Mando that killed it on that. I mean, there's just some, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, it's just a really good, a great fiddle by
Wait,
Jenna.
did Walter Ray? Was it Walter Ray that played on that?
I feel like it was. Yeah, yeah.
He passed away not long after that.
No, I didn't
Did you
know
know
that.
that? Yeah,
No,
he
was it?
had.
No, was it Walter? No, it wasn't Walter. I know
Okay.
Walter. It was a friend of yours in Chicago.
Oh, Todd Barneson.
That, yes, Todd
Todd,
Barneson. That's
shout
right.
out to Todd. Yeah. Well, shout out to Walter Ray too. But
Oh, well, yeah, yeah. I knew. Yeah, Walter's
Todd was
fantastic, dude.
he was amazing. Todd, interestingly, weird tie here. Todd worked in a music store around the corner from me, and once again, he's one of those silent but deadly musicians where he never talked about what he did. And I remember one day he was like, "Hey, I play in this bluegrass band here in Philly. You should come check us out." Man, I went. I, I was on the damn floor the whole time. I was like he was like, I said, "You're the Eddie Van Halen of mandolin." Okay, like he was crushing it. It was so incredible. Um,
Dude,
it was amazing.
yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, Jenna killed it on fiddle. I mean, there was so much that was like, that's a really special album, man. Like yeah, it's good. I mean, for me personally, it was like from the songs to the recording to the even the images on it. It was like the first real personal album that I had, where it was like, my dad, I don't know if you remember, but because it was in the uh, based on the 1930s, um, on the back of the album, we had handwriting from my wife's grandmothers, each of her grandmothers who were alive in the 30s, and my grandmother who were alive in the 30s. So it was like three
Yeah.
different handwritings writing out the names of my songs instead of like trying to find a font. And the
Oh
back of
wow.
it was like my great grandmother with her chickens, and like it was just like all of these things were like really, really inherently personal, which is really honestly one of the first times that I'd done anything like that. Um, and yeah, it was a really special album. So
It, and I think too the added bonus there was you pressing it on vinyl,
hmm
and man, that was so cool. Like what a I think actually the first project I produced that was put on vinyl, and
oh really?
I think yeah, and very appropriately so. Meaning like just the vibe of it, and the throwback nature of it and everything. Man, I was really I think we should all I'm sure we are all very proud of that record.
Remember Queen of Rome?
Oh
We did
yeah,
we did a couple takes of
yeah,
it. So it had like all the letters of the alphabet like in a row. And
yes.
so the short story, very short story, because people just probably don't care about me and my short stories, was that when I asked my wife to marry me, I wrote that song about her, and on the way to propose, she'd never heard it, and I played that song um, on a CD on the way to the beach, because she likes the beach. I grew up at the beach, so as a hairy guy at the beach with humidity, it's not my jam, but for her, it's really
Right.
special. So
I
that's the
got you.
beginning of the sacrifices that we make.
Right, of
Uh,
course, yes.
and so yeah, I played it for her, and it was just like this like special moment for like something I could actually give her, because she would always talk about like, yeah, I'd write a song about love in general. She'd be like, "Is this about me?" And I'd be like, "No, not in particular. It's just about love in general." And I think it really pissed her off that it wasn't about her. So I was like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't write personal shit much. So
When I listened to Riverbed the other day, if you listen to Riverbed, don't listen to Riverbed. I listened to it on a stormy night. And man, that will get you in your head because the end is just that stomping and those
yeah,
clumping sounds, and you're like, it's so haunting. It's like,
it's a
sheesh.
good track, dude. I was watching so we're all raised with music. We all grow up with music. We know what music is, and we know how it affects us, and how it moves us, and how it takes us through these different journeys. And I was watching the Hot Wings challenge
Oh
um,
yeah.
Frodo Baggins. Elijah Wood
Okay, yeah.
was on one a couple weeks ago, and Sean, the host, was talking about like he starts going into off onto video games, and he starts talking about like like what is it that's different about like being a voice actor or whatever, or experiencing video games versus like being in a movie. And of course, like the answer is very simple, but like whenever you kind of dig in a little bit deeper, you're like, oh yeah, it's like he's like, well, in a movie, you're just along for the ride. Like it's already established. What's happening is already done. Like you're just watching it
Yeah.
unfold. In a video game, you're making the choice to go down that hallway. Like you're making the choice to open that door. And so that's why it's like it's just a different experience. And I think that there's this healthy blend between the two when it comes to music. Like you're looking at, this is what the artist is giving me, but I'm taking this experience and I'm interpreting it in my own mind. And as opposed to, you can't interpret anybody else's mind, you can only interpret in your own mind. I don't know why I just said that, but I'm interpreting it in my mind. And so then it's like this like combo experience of being on a journey that is your selected journey, applying your own shit, your own life, your own emotions into what's happening. You don't do that in a Marvel movie. Like like you're not doing that.
Right.
And so
It's
so yeah, so you're applying your own emotional like um piece to something that someone has created. So it's like this melding of multiple things happening. I think whenever like you're as a producer or as a songwriter, like I'm like, this is my emotion, these are my words, this is my melody, and then you're saying this is my interpretation of this person's artistry, and I'm going to take this,
yeah.
I'm gonna take this paint that they give me, these colors that they give me, I'm gonna throw them on a fucking canvas. So like I've got the paint. I'm like, these are my colors. This is my design. And you say, okay, I'm gonna put it on a canvas, and then you have the listeners that are walking through your gallery, and they're like, holy shit, this is my life when I was 8 years old and doing these things. So it's like this crazy experience that kind of happens all around. And I think that we're all dropping emotions into it, and so it's all our own interpretations, but we're all kind of on this journey together, whether we want to be or not, which is fascinating.
That was probably one of the coolest bits that I've recorded for all these interviews. That literally was such
Nice.
a great way to describe it. I did an interview yesterday. Humble brag. No, no, I did this. I did this interview for NBC in Philadelphia because I did a tribute to 9/11 with a songwriter Skip Denenberg back in
Yeah, I remember.
2002.
Yeah, I remember you
Yeah,
talking about
and
that.
so they're doing the 10-year anniversary. So
Oh,
they revisited the song. So they interviewed us, and it's interesting because the lady asked me, it was because what you just said is kind of what I was saying. I think you said it more eloquently than I did. By the way,
nice.
my vocabulary has stepped up about 10 great because all the audio, Pat asks me now because my vocabulary was never this good, but I'm still editing audiobooks. So I've been doing that for what, 6, 7 years now. My
Yeah,
vocabulary is fucking great now.
awesome.
So, um, but when I was talking to this lady, I was trying to simplify. She's like, what do you do as a producer? And I almost, I said it in a different way. I basically said, a songwriter gives me this song, and it's my job to almost put a third dimension to it.
Yeah,
So now, you have the lyric, you have now like, how can I magnify the emotion or manipulate people